Hi, my name's Dralnah. You guys probably already know that if you're looking at this video. I just put out a video on video game water at the very beginning of the year. Technically, I had it uploading into last year, which was my goal. I just want to talk about a few things. So one, I said I was going to put out 3 videos this year and a couple of live streams. I didn't end up doing that, obviously. I only got 2 out, but I'm pretty happy with the 2 that I made. But I really want to get into why I only made 2 and why the second one took so long. And part of it is just procrastination. I feel like it's something I should put out there, not because I feel like I owe an apology or anything to anybody, but because it's something I want to have this out there and make it as notes, and I want to like hold myself accountable so I don't make the same mistakes with the video again. First of all, I'm pretty happy with how the video game water video came out, but I also made the entire video minus some of the assembly cuts in about 14 hours on New Year's Eve, so that wasn't ideal, but I really just wanted to get the video out there. I had all the footage. Okay, let's start at the beginning. Now that I'm thinking about it, I actually had that idea probably about a year ago, over a year ago now, because I remember seeing somebody else had made a very similar video, and I can't remember the name of that video right now. I'll probably put it in the links because it's also a really good video, but somebody had made that basically a very similar idea for a video, just talking about water in video games and water levels and everything. And it was really good, and I listened to it while I was on a long drive, and then I watched it again later, and I really liked it, but I had this idea before that. I want to just put that out here, because I know for a fact I'm going to mention that, and somebody's going to go, oh, but this guy did it first. I know, I'm late to the party. It's okay. We have very different videos, that's all right. I've been mulling over this idea throughout the entirety of the speedrunner video, and that drug on longer than I would have liked. It took until July to get that video out, when realistically I could have had it done before my vacation in June, but ultimately life happened. I work a 40-hour-a-week job. I've got social obligations. I like to goof off and play games and watch media and just sit and like exist and not really do much sometimes. So ultimately I'm not that sort of person that keeps pushing themselves forever and ever. It's just not how I am. So I wanted to wait a couple weeks before I started the video game water video once I released the speedrunner video, but you know, that's what it is. I'm glad that I got that out. But then, all right, so I start writing for the video game water video. I just find myself being tired a lot of the time, or busy, and I really can't like sit down. And when I do sit down to try and write on it, it's very frustrating. It's hard to narrow down a scope, and I sat there for hours and hours just staring at like a word processor, trying to think about like, how am I going to narrow down this scope, because this is just, it's so much. You can't just talk about water. And that ultimately was the downfall of the video. I think part of it was just scope problems. I could not narrow down the scope of the video enough to talk about the things I wanted to talk about, all of them at once, you know? So that's part of why that took so long. And eventually at some point I got sick of it. I had a single moment where I felt motivated to write, and I wrote the whole script out in like 2-3 hours. I woke up the next day, I reviewed it, it looked okay. I didn't bother editing at all. I sent it over to a friend, they said it looked fine, and that's another mistake. I did not edit that video script nearly enough. And part of that was just because I wanted to get working on things, which is ironic considering how long it took the video to come out in the first place, but it was just, there was so much to it. There was so much that was just, there was a lot that I should have cut. There was just a lot that I should have cut or otherwise rewrote to be more focused, and I just didn't. And like I said, I'm ultimately happy where the video turned out, but a lot of that stuff was done in post. I was cutting out bits and pieces of what I'd written, and it was just a mess. You know, the script writing process, I need to focus on that. I need to write down everything a little bit more clearly. I think that'll help me a lot. The next thing was probably, I didn't make a shot list. I knew I wanted to go to a bunch of different places. I had written them down in the script as like actual locations for each scene, but I didn't make a shot list, and that was another problem. And I realized that before I had even finished filming, I was like, I should have just made a shot list for this so I knew where I needed to go to film each thing, and it would have been fine. So where I was filming, it was a lot of public parks. It was a lot of, you know, publicly owned land. And so it was a lot of hiking trails and things like that, and I'm happy with that. I really do enjoy hiking and going out and taking photographs and all that. But it was a mix of, all right, so now we're going to get into a different thing again. Okay, so let me offer a hypothetical here, right? And this is basically what happened repeatedly. I would go, okay, cool. I am done work. I worked from home today, so basically 5 p.m. I'm done. Or if I go down to the office, cool, 3:30 p.m. I can drive down somewhere, get the footage I want, and then leave. All right, cool. It's now mid-September or October because I've been putting off filming this. And okay, cool. It's raining today. Can't go there. All right, let's try the next day. You know, next day, I get done work. I look outside. It's sunny. Perfect. We'll do it then. I drive down there. As I'm driving down there, I realize I've got about 30 minutes of sunlight left and I'm not going to be able to film this. And this only gets worse the later in the year you go because I live in the northern hemisphere and it gets darker during the winter. It's just kind of how it goes. So that was annoying. All right, cool. Let's try it on the weekends. On the weekends, I have social obligations that need done. I was live streaming for a pretty decent period of time. When I wasn't live streaming, I actually went ahead and got my engineering training certification. And so I was studying for that exam. And all these things piled up in like September to October, which is admittedly partially my fault because I actually want to interact with my friends. I'm not blaming myself for that, but I realized that if I want to get my filming done, I need to like block out more time, especially on the weekends when I know I actually have time. So that was part of the problem, was just filming. Filming took forever. Filming, that was another problem. So that last like take that I did a full take, read most of the script. The parts that I knew that I didn't have takes of at like parks and stuff. I did a read of all the bits in the script that I knew that I didn't have parts of already in the living room with the planters. You guys saw it in the thing. It was like the little like weird circular planter thing where it's just me sitting in the living room. So I did that take, and that was about 2 hours worth of recording time. Well, that was about an hour's worth of recording time. And so I had to sift through about an hour's worth of just footage of me sitting there talking and flubbing lines and messing up. And this is where we get into the third thing, which is me as a filmmaker and as a performer. I don't like how I performed during that script. There was a couple of problems there. So I think the primary one was, one, I did have a copy of the script, like a physical, like printed out paper copy of the script with me. However, I did not practice that script at all. I basically did not have any of it memorized, so I was looking down every couple of lines, and I'm sure that you saw that during the video if you were looking. And I'm not mad at that, but it's just what it is. But the bigger problem was I kept having to look down, and I was either delivering lines, reading them down here, or I was trying to say the lines to the camera and flubbing them for like 5 minutes at a time. And that's just too much time to take. So I think one of two things has to happen. I either need to spend time off camera reading my scripts and figuring out how I want to deliver everything, or I need to invest in a teleprompter. So basically any like money that I get from either Twitch or Coffee or anything else, that teleprompter I think is the next big thing. Kind of a pain in the ass for me to sit there and have 5 minutes of takes that I have to fast forward through that don't have anything useful in them, you know? So that was another problem. So the last thing I think was really my editing software, which is something I only partially had control over. For anybody who doesn't know, I run all of my personal computer stuff off of Linux, at least like my actual PC. But there's only really one professional piece of software that works on Linux for video editing, and that's DaVinci Resolve. Now, DaVinci Resolve is an amazing program. I love it. There's a reason that I want to use it. And it's not just because it's one of the few ones that works on Linux. If I really felt strongly about just wanting to stay on Linux, I would still probably be okay with making a Windows 10 partition and just editing on Premiere or something, or even DaVinci Resolve on Windows. The problem is DaVinci Resolve on Linux is very finicky. And we're going to get into a little bit of technical stuff here, but the long story short is DaVinci Resolve on Linux pretty much assumes that you're using a NVIDIA GPU. I have an AMD GPU. This is a problem. AMD GPUs work great on Linux for just about everything, except for DaVinci Resolve, which really assumes that you're using NVIDIA GPUs. And so there are ways to get it to work. I've gotten it to work before. However, the problem is they don't stay. Those methods don't typically stay around. As soon as you update a couple times, DaVinci Resolve will break again and you have to fix it again. And frankly, I had gotten tired of that hassle. DaVinci Resolve or I'll finish the video and I'll do one thing and then I won't edit anything for a couple of months and I'll update my computer and then DaVinci Resolve will stop working again. It's extremely frustrating. So I had gotten tired of updating DaVinci Resolve repeatedly and then having it break, which was just a consistent thing that happens on Linux a lot. At least on Arch Linux, which is what I'm on. So I tried to set up a program that would keep it in its own little section of the computer that wouldn't update really, and I wouldn't have to worry about it. It took about 6 hours for me to figure out everything that was wrong with the program, but I got it working, and it worked flawlessly for about 2 weeks. I got it working over Thanksgiving weekend, US Thanksgiving weekend, so late November, early December. And then I had it working for about 2 weeks. And then it broke again. Randomly, I tried to edit footage from my video on like a Tuesday night, and suddenly DaVinci Resolve wouldn't load at all. I tried to debug it for about 2 hours, got frustrated, went to bed, woke up the next day, and I went, you know what, I'm going to install another operating system on here. I'm going to dual boot, and I went, you know what, I'm going to install 2 different operating systems on my computer. One's for everything, and then one's just for DaVinci Resolve. So I had intended to use Rocky Linux, which is like the official DaVinci Resolve operating system, and that didn't work out. And it didn't work out because Rocky Linux also expects that you're using NVIDIA drivers. For whatever reason, it just would not work with my AMD card. So I went, you know what, okay, fine, forget that. At this point, I was about 5 seconds away from buying a Windows 10 license key and installing that alongside Linux, even though I know that that's going to cause more issues later on. But I just wanted DaVinci Resolve to work. But I stopped myself. I literally had the Windows key in a cart. I had a Windows 10 key in my cart and was waiting to click on the button. And I went, you know what? Hold on. Let's take a step back. Let's go back. I'm going to load up Ubuntu, which is a very well-known operating system. So I went and I installed a third operating system. I installed Ubuntu Long-Term Service, which is a version of the operating system that should be kept up to date for about 2 to 3 years, 2 to 4 years, something like that. And so I installed that. I then had to install the closed source AMD drivers, which if anybody here has worked on Linux before knows that those are prone to just breaking your computer. Thankfully, I didn't have any issues with those. Got that installed, got DaVinci Resolve installed, everything worked flawlessly, finally. Okay, I did not have it set up right until I think it was around Christmas Day, okay? So I had told myself I was gonna have 3 videos out in the year. I only had 2 ready, and one of them I was dealing with technical issues for literally a month and a half straight. And I wanna take a second and say that the editing stuff isn't necessarily something that I had an exact power over because it's just how it was, but I was very set on using DaVinci Resolve. I could have used other editing software, I could have used other tools, but that's really what I wanted to use. So part of that's on me being stubborn. Even once I had all the footage recorded, I still wasn't like ready to go because I still had to fix the editor. But I finally got that set up around Christmas Day, maybe a little bit later, and I think January 29th or 30th, I had initially had something planned. I had initially had something planned for the 30th, but I just ended up not doing that and ended up staying in instead. And I had a little bit of time to sit and just stare at the wall and watch movies and whatever. And while I was sitting there, I just went, you know what? I still want this video out before the end of the year. So literally the entirety of the 31st. I woke up in the morning, started my computer into the operating system that has DaVinci Resolve. It did not shut down that night until 1:30 in the morning, and I woke up at 9 o'clock. So it was like 13, 14 hours of just solid editing, coloring, audio editing, finding all the sound bites and music that I wanted, everything. It took so long, but I got it done, and then it was uploading for like 3 hours, so I went, you know what, I'm going to bed. So I went to bed, woke up January 1st, immediately published the video. Thumbnail was done and everything. So I'm very proud of myself for getting that done. However, I don't want to do that again. I really don't want to do that again. It was a fun project. I'm glad that I did it. I'm disappointed a little bit in how it turned out in a couple ways. There's a couple of details that I probably wouldn't have missed if I hadn't tried to jam the whole video out within a day. And so, like, just to recap, I'm pretty happy with the project overall, for the record. But here's the things I need to work on. I need to edit my scripts. I need to make a shot list. I need to work on, I guess, my filmmaking skills. I don't really know what to say about that. My performance skills, for sure. So I guess that's another one. Like, you know, performance skills and filmmaking skills, they kind of go hand in hand if you're working solo. And then I've got my editor sorted, so that hopefully shouldn't be an issue anymore. I'm saying that, and I'm going to jinx myself again, but I am very much hoping that I do not have to deal with a single other piece of software for editing again, and I can just leave that whole operating system on its own and just boot into it whenever I need. Now that I've ranted for about 20 minutes about this, what do I have to say about the video? Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm happy with it. It was, I think I initially wanted that video to be a lot more about video game design and video game design philosophies, but ultimately, I wasn't really, like, taught those things per se, and I haven't, like, read them in books or anything. Not to say that book learning isn't the only way that you can't learn about video game design. I'd say that I'm pretty qualified to talk about video game design and what kind of works and what kind of doesn't, but I'm not a developer, so I don't have that point of view necessarily. I'm talking about it solely from just somebody who is enjoying the game from the outside, a consumer. So I ended up leaning a little bit away from the technical end of things and talking about, like, what works in design and all that, because ultimately what a lot of people are looking for are the right vibes, so to speak. And so this ended up becoming a little bit more of just a mood piece, which I think I even mentioned in the description. It's a mood piece. But I kind of like how it turned out still. It's really just about like how water makes you feel, not just in video games, but in the real world too. And like how you can, almost an intersectionality study, which sounds like a weird thing to say. It's a very academic term for something talking about video games, but I think that's kind of what I ended up making in a way. It's just something that's talking about like the way that these things make you feel psychologically, whether it's in the real world or not, you know, and then like even using bits of the video, like making sure that certain music was playing at certain times, so that you could almost feel that yourself a little bit more. So it becomes a little bit meta in that way. Maybe I'm just getting too hipster on all this. Maybe I'm just being too, like, you know, self-aggrandizing, but I think that I made something I'm happy with, and I think that's what matters at the end of the day. Am I going to make more videos like that in the future? I don't know. Genuinely not sure. I enjoyed making it. I think that it was fun to make. It was a pain in the ass to make for several reasons that I know I can make more efficient and better, so I'm not spending 6 months making a video like that. I'm sure that you guys are very confused if you're watching this video and you don't know about my other channel. So the long and short story is my other channel, I'm posting all of my more polished videos on there. And this is just kind of a one-off thing, so I just wanted to toss it on there. So if you want to check that out, go check out, it should just be Dralnah. If you haven't seen the actual video yet, go check out the video. I'm sure I'll put a link to it somewhere. I don't know where. But I'm debating on a couple of ideas for the next video, and we'll just see how they play out. I'm not quite sure. I don't want to like commit to something right now. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for doing all you do. If you really want to support, honestly, just watch the videos. That just shows me enough that y'all want to see this. That's the other thing. YouTube just kind of eats the bitrate for breakfast on videos. And so I kind of have to just deal with that fact. If you guys want to see a higher quality upload of that, let me know. I'll figure out some way to like put that up somewhere so that people can just watch it on its own. Because I've got the full render, like 30 gigabyte file. I'm not going to give you guys that one, but I will give you guys something that looks a little bit higher quality, if you really want that. Okay, so last remarks. I haven't been doing a ton of photography stuff lately, but if you guys are interested in that, I have my own photography website. The links will be somewhere. I also post on Mastodon. That's where I post most of my photography stuff. Check there. If you want to know what I'm up to as far as YouTube stuff, I have a Blue Sky, and I'll probably put up community posts. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But I won't be putting out a video for a couple of months. I've got some other stuff I want to work on there. If you want to see me get a teleprompter for the next video, so I'm actually looking at the camera and not looking down at my fucking shoes half the time, feel free to donate. I don't like chilling like that, but ultimately teleprompter's expensive, man. I don't have a tablet or anything I can put in one, so I'd have to get like a proper like monitor for one too. So I think that's about it. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I hope you guys have a good night. See ya.